Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Stryve Golf Podcast. Super excited about the episode today. We have a very special guest with us. But Devin here, and with us as always, we have my co-host, Sean. Sean, how are you, my man?
I'm pumped for today. I think we've got a lot of good stuff to share with people and just ready to dive in.
Yeah, want to bring some value. So we have Evan Singer from the Par Train. Evan, how are you, man?
I'm good, guys. And like I said, I'm excited to be the guest once in a while. This is fun.
Reverse the roles.
Yeah.
Man, we are so excited. Honestly, when Sean and I kind of came up with this, just the idea of having a podcast, your content, your stuff kind of inspired us and really wanting to start a podcast in the first place. We made a list of guys that we wanted to have as guests, and you were my number one right there at the top of my iPhone. On my notepad was getting the mental guy was your name, but got to know you a little bit more because we actually just came across one of your videos on TikTok. Wild enough, I was actually preparing for a big tournament of mine for a little the Utah State Am, a little local qualifier. And came across one of your videos just a couple of weeks prior, and it stuck with me, man. It was super impactful. It jived well, and have a fun story that we'll get to of kind of the impact that made. So, but for those that maybe are not familiar, Evan, talk to us about the Par Train and just kind of the genesis of it and how it kind of morphed into the success it is today.
Well, first of all, what a cliffhanger! What a hook! Now everyone's going to listen to the end.
That's right.
Now I want to hear that story. Yeah, as we were kind of alluding to off air, the Par Train, my co-host Matt Cermak and I, it started very different than what it is today. It kind of started out as like a PGA Tour comedy type show. We were trying to create a lighter side, of the tour. And it started with us giving a joint wedding speech at our mutual best friend's wedding. So a guy I grew up with, he played college golf with. So we were the two best friends. We came together, gave a speech. There might've been a wig involved. We brought the house down, I must say, myself. And it's weird that would turn into a podcast, but we're both golf nuts. He's the scratch. I'm a 6. And, I was a baseball guy growing up. So I love talking to guys like Cermak. Like, he's a short game master. I love figuring out what he's thinking about, his approach, all of that stuff. So we'd geek out all the time. And similar to you guys, I was kind of looking for a creative outlet. I wanted to do something. I had a few coworkers tell me I got a voice for radio. And I was like, does that mean I don't have a face for TV? What does that mean? Yeah, we ended up doing it. And it's been like 5 or 6 years now. And I'll tell you this, guys, I realized one day, I wanted to do something that's really authentic to me and us. And like I told you off air, mindfulness and mindset stuff had been something that I had kind of hidden from my friends and family. Only a few people really knew that I was like sneaking self-help books from the back of the bookstore and working on that stuff since I was like 16 years old. And I love how golf is an immediate feedback loop for exactly what's in my mind and how it translates to the shot. And so for me, it was a practicing meditation. It was every round of golf, I would have a chance to either get in my own way or get out of my own way. And I really loved that practice as a part of the game. So now we do that every week. And it's awesome you found us on TikTok. The last year was like when we were just starting TikTok. So
yeah, it was funny to see like going from the TikTok in the beginning to having, just a couple likes, some comments. And then I went over to your Instagram. I was like, whoa, this stuff's legit. But yeah, of all things, grateful for, the old TikTok to bring us together. But yeah, man, so much to unpack there and just such good stuff. Cause I think, Sean and I are very similar in that. Like we met serving church missions together, found out we were both golf nuts, and have ever since then been super tight. And we just, geek out on golf stuff and really just trying to, like you said, I love that it really is. It's the most brutally honest game. It's just the immediacy of things that can impact and give us feedback, or it's just golf is the perfect setting for that. But as you mentioned, the mindfulness thing is applicable way outside of golf. And we've talked about that in our previous episodes as well. Cause I think I also am a big believer in, manifestation, being, visioneering yourself, being successful. I also talked about that on the podcast, and that's, it's a success that's way just outside of the game of golf. So, man, we're just super excited on that.
Well, I'll tell you this, we had Dr. Bob Rotella on the show, probably the most well-known sports psychologist in the world. And he told us this. He said, if you take nothing else from this episode, thinking about where you want the ball to go and thinking good things and do nothing else, you have a better chance of playing well, because you might think those bad thoughts, the negative thoughts, the heavy thoughts are true, but golf's hard enough. You think our swing flaws are going to be helped by those things? Probably not, right? So, that always stuck with me. It's like, well, you have two options. One gives you a better chance than the other. So even if you don't think it's true, it helps you better than the alternative. So,
yeah. Man, I was just curious, how was that? You're probably feeling the way I'm feeling now, interviewing you interviewing Dr. Bob Rotella, but how did you come in contact with him, and how did that go? Because those episodes are they're golden gems, but how did that come about?
Yeah, I just reached out to I think it was his wife that fields his emails. And a lot of these sports psychologists are old school. So I got a call from Darlene, his wife, one day. Didn't recognize the number. I picked it up, and it's Darlene Rotella. I was like, oh my God, how are you? And we scheduled it. And that guy, I don't know if you guys listened to that one, but he is a hoot. Like, he is a character, and the guy's got some swagger. You can tell that he can institute some confidence. He coaches Rory McIlroy and LeBron James, among many. And, you can tell that he carries some confidence himself, and it's contagious. So you're right. It was a pinch me moment. Those moments take Matt and I a bit to say, wow, okay, I think we're doing the right thing. I think we're on the right track, and just filled with gratitude and just keep doing what we're doing. I'll say this, like, a lot of people, I used to think when I first started out that, oh, you get like a Bob Rotella and you like blow up, or you get a PJ Tour Pro, you blow up. That's not how it works. Some people maybe do, but for us, it's like, and I know it's cliche, you hear it all the time, but I can tell you it's true. I've lived it. It's like consistency, it's quality, it's value. And if you do that over and over, maybe one day a Devin and a Sean might come across it, and you might make a small impact. And that's all I can ask. So those moments are definitely pinch me moments for sure.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I think there's I don't know, that might be a good segue into the first video that I came across from you, again, about a year ago, and just randomly, mindlessly scrolling through TikTok, as we do. I'm embarrassed to say, Sean and I, we always joke, we call them video essays. They're not TikTok videos, they're video essays, to sound a little bit more intelligent. But yeah, just scrolling across, kind of feeling the nerves getting into the golf tournament season. And this video came across May 4th of 2021, and man, it hit me right where I needed it. And so what I wanted to do was to play it for the listeners, play it for you, see if you remember it, and if you can talk to it a little bit more. And I'm happy to share the story because it's really impactful. So it's 50 seconds. I won't play the whole thing, but I'll stop at the point where it really, really hit me. So I'm gonna pull that up.
In life, you can fake it till you make it, right? But in golf, you can't, because there's nothing more human than golf, because failure is around every corner. It's inevitable. So instead of trying to avoid failure, avoiding the big shot, avoiding the big number, holding on, try not to make a mistake, why not swing free and embrace that mistakes may come?
A lot more good there. But that word right there, swing free and embrace the mistakes that may come. And man, I will never forget. So it was at a local qualifier, with live scoring, you can kind of see where you're at, how many dudes are going to make the cut. And I was standing on the 18th tee, and it's this downhill par 5, big, just the epitome of a risk reward hole. and had my layup club. I'm like, I think I'm just play it safe, try and don't make a big number, make par, see what happens. It's windy. Dudes may throw up a big number. I might be all right. And honestly, I'm not even joking. That came into my mind where I need to swing free. I need to let go. Walked back down the hill, grabbed my driver, walked back up, hit the swing of the year. Huge, just high draw, ended up having a wedge in, made eagle, and qualified by 1.
Wow.
And so that was just, like, obviously it can't always be like that. I wish it was, but that was something that was just like the application, the impact that it had, and just something so simple, and it resonated so well. And I just think that that's the value that you bring and your content brings to every golfer, regardless if you're scratch 12, 25, it doesn't matter. These messages are applicable. So I'm curious, do you remember that video? And can you kind of speak to it a little bit already, but would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Dude, what a great story. Thank you for sharing that. It's awesome. That's why I do it. So that warms my heart. So Scotty Scheffler said a quote before the PGA last week. I don't know if you caught it. He said, they asked him, now that you've won a major, how would you define what it takes to win a major? He could have easily said, well, you got to keep it in the fairway. You got to make putts, you got to hit a lot of greens, or you got to scramble, all those things. Mm-hmm. He didn't say any of that. He said, you just have to have the faith that you can. And the thing that struck me about Scotty's Masters win, and it's a little bit closer to my heart because it was the first Masters I ever got to go to, was that this year. And so I feel an even stronger connection to what it takes to win there and the course and all that stuff. And, he talked at the end, or actually at the beginning of the week. He said, I've put in the work. I've put in the preparation, and all I need to do is commit to every shot, as many shots as I can. I'm going to make mistakes, but if I've done everything I can do and I commit to my shots, then I don't need to be upset with the result on Sunday. He might've said this on Saturday, actually, at the end of Saturday, because it's like, he's done everything he can do, and that is pure commitment. Like and this guy didn't miss that many shots, although on Sunday he did. Like, he missed it left, he missed it right, he missed it short, he missed it long. But on 15 with a 4-shot lead, he still went for it in 2 because he still played offense, because he believed in his ability. It's what he would do normally. So instead of doing what a lot of us would do, which is, I have a 4-shot lead with 4 or 5 to play, I'm going to hold on, try and par in. He continued attacking, and I've made a video about this before. He wasn't being reckless, but I think that's the point. Is a lot of people see Scotty Scheffler win the Masters and become number 1 player in the world and win what, $12 million in 3 months or whatever it was. And they're like, God, this guy doesn't miss. And look, I'm not going to argue, like, his golf's been impeccable, but Devin, what your story just tell your listeners is, think about the flip and the switch that happened with just a very simple mindset shift. I literally, look, I've got this silly little I
love those daily
golf calendar that my future mother-in-law gave me. It literally says May 24th, Tuesday, the difference between ordinary players and champions is the way they think. Patty Berg. So those guys and gals are all amazing at hitting the ball. And frankly, I play with a scratch former D1 college player and a member guest every year. I'm a 6. We don't hit the ball that differently. Like, overall, he hits it much more solid to me. His misses are less drastic than mine, but they're not that different. When we hit them well, they're not that different. Frankly, I'm a little longer than him sometimes. So,
let's go. Flex on him, sir.
He would have issue with that, but I can't hit it longer than him. So my point is that, it's between the ears. We've all heard it, but that's the practice. It's so much easier for me to sit on a soapbox and talk about it. But what I love doing is practicing it And some days it's either easier than others. But yeah, I think that video that you played is about acceptance and commitment. And if you're hitting bad shots, trying not to hit bad shots, maybe you have faith you're going to hit a good one and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, don't just listen to me, see what happens,
Right.
Experiment with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point. That's resonating with me so strongly because, like, a little background on me, like, I've played golf for basically since I could walk. My dad put a club in my hand, and most of my golf life has been so focused on like technical components of the swing. So anytime something goes wrong, my first instinct has been to analyze the swing and try to figure out what's wrong. And Devin can attest to this, right? Like I've gotten way in my head before with like swing mechanics, but
we all
haven't had any success in tournaments, and just had some of my worst golf experiences playing in competitive rounds, I think, because I'm so focused on mechanics. But this year, it's all kind of coincided with Devin and I sort of starting this podcast, and he's introduced me to the part train, and I've hopped on the train and started to
join the ride.
It started to look at more of like the mental side of things, where it's like, why am I focused so much on swing mechanics? I've made a golf swing thousands and thousands of times in my life. Like, it's obviously there. The muscle memory is there. What's getting in my way? Like, obviously something's getting in my way. And so I'm still so early on in kind of this whole mental game exploration, but it's been pretty amazing just in the short amount of time where I've started to focus more on the mental side of things, where I feel more free on the golf course. I feel like it's easier to maybe overcome those mistakes, right? Because you're gonna, like you mentioned, you're not gonna hit every shot perfectly, and you're gonna get a bad bounce or two. But it's like, how do you respond to that? How do you react to that? And just it's awesome having you on. I'm just curious, what does that look like for you on the golf course, right? Where you're very big into the mental game, but you're also always striving to improve your golf game, right? And working on your score and trying to shoot low scores. So how does that work when you're practicing? Like, what's the balance between making a swing and focusing on like the mental strengthening as well?
I don't know if you guys have seen me say this. I've been saying it all year, but 2022 is the year of the short game.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. I look back at last year's member guest back in St. Louis, and years previously, we made the shootout both times. So 2 for 2, finished 6th, and then we finished 4th. And coming into this past year, the podcast was starting to get a little bit more popular. I felt like, I talked to Colin Morikawa's coach, and then Scott Fawcett from Decade, and I'm every week I'm strengthening my mental muscle, and I'm putting it to the test, and I'm really integrating it into my life, So I was like, years past, I played with a lot of fear. Like, it's a really hard course. I don't know if you guys played a lot of golf in Southern California, but the handicaps don't travel great to Midwest golf. Like, I can spray it anywhere around here. Rough's not penal. And I could shoot, as a 6 handicap. If I play well, I'll shoot in, high 80s, probably mid to high 80s, 70s, mid to high 70s. And then there was all these rounds I would play around here, feel like I didn't play that great, but I shoot an 81, but I'd go home and I'd be shooting 85s, 86s. And I'm like, I used to think like, what the hell's going on? But now I realize like courses are really hard. Like, if you miss an angle,
right,
you're blocked in.
Yeah.
Like, you have to hit a miraculous shot to get it up by the green. And so years past, I played with a ton of fear. I created this narrative that this course is hard. I have to hit it perfect. I'm letting my partner down, all of that ego stuff. And now with the short game work, and I've been doing a lot of work with mental golf type, which we can talk about if you want. Like, I'm getting really, I'm starting to understand, it sounds like both of you are better than me. I'm starting to understand how these guys and gals play. For example, working on the short game, I'm making sure every time I go to the range, half my time has to be at the short game area. And I know not everybody has a short game area, and I know it's rare to get a good short game area, But even if you're at the range, like just working on your wedges or like that little basket 30 yards away and trying different clubs and understanding trajectories, understanding wrist angles, feels, like actually putting it to practice and having fun with it, it's a game changer because I didn't expect this, but it actually frees up the rest of your game mentally, because so much of my need to play with perfection, which is such a common mistake, is because I wasn't getting up and down that often. So, you know, if I put myself out of position off the tee and then I'm not hitting a green, I'll use the member guest because that's like my big tournament. I was making a lot of bogeys. And when I'm getting the one getting pops, it doesn't help my partner. You know, I need to ride the train,
That's right.
the par train, not the bogey train. So, but now I'm starting to understand and practice, you know, how does the trajectory of my 52 differ from my 56, from my 60 to my pitching wedge? What are certain shots that I am more comfortable with the other? I'm keeping things much more compact and keeping a real smooth motion, learning how to use the bounce. And now it's like, I'm playing a game now. I don't care if I don't miss a green or if I miss a green, because it's a fun chance to put this stuff to practice. So to answer your question, Sean, for me, it's all about the short game. And it's about creating a mindset that works for me. You know, a lot of people hear things like aim small, miss small, but that doesn't help me. Like my mental golf type, I like big zones. If I feel like I have to hit a really small target, at least for long shots, especially off the tee, it actually restricts me. Whereas if I'm at the range, I can let them fly with anyone, you know, because I'm just looking at this vast space. And so I've been working a lot on my mentality off the tee, because up to this point, that's been my biggest Achilles heel by far. 2 years ago, I didn't even hit a driver at the member guest. So yeah, I think it has to be a balance. You know, you've got to have at least an intention going into everything you do. I'd say that is one of the biggest things that most people don't do in life and in golf. You're just like going in and hoping you do well, and then you're just reacting, and you have no toolbox or plan, or forget the plan, but an intention to be able to reset and address the challenges coming at you, instead of, you know, just hoping you have it that day. So to me, around the greens and having a good mindset I'm hoping takes me to a whole nother level when I play again in September, which I expect it will.
It's going to be a good member guest. I can sense it. You're in the short game. I love it. And it doesn't surprise me that Sean kind of asked more of he's a range rat, and he could beat balls all day and really focus on that, which I'm jealous of. I'm just not that way. But I love the point. Kind of a couple of things, like I've shouted them out before, but Blueprint Golf. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
Their stuff is amazing. Like I love their stuff, and it's very intentional. It's fun. It's light. But again, it's applicable, and you can take it right to the range and then to the onto the actual course. And I love, like you were talking about in one of your podcast episodes about like hitting the windows, like you mentioned, like off the tee, like imagine like a 30-foot shade of glass that you're going to shatter as you hook, draw it or fade it around.
Yeah.
Love that. But I'm curious though, like being, now people know you, I mean, you're Evan from the Par Chain, you're this mental expert. Do you feel a sense of like pressure of like not being able to make like mental errors or mental hiccups? Like we know golf, as far as hitting golf shots, it's going to happen to everyone. Everyone's going to hook it out of bounds. Everyone's going to hit a bad slice. But as far as like, do you ever feel that sense of like, I can't get pissed, or I can't, throw a club, or I can't do, however you manifest your frustration. Do you feel a sense of like obligation where now this is like your full-time gig, that like you're not allowed to do that anymore? I'm curious, like from your perspective on that.
100%. Yeah. My biggest mental challenge, I'd say year to date, has been, at least previously, I've improved a lot on it, is playing golf with a guy or gal that I coach. I had a first few rounds with one of my longtime guys that I've coached, that found me through the podcast, that struggling with the yips. And he brought me out to his country club here in LA, and super excited to play it. And I've talked about this too, like some really nice clubs or like top 100 courses, it's easy to let the course intimidate you.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of walking on eggshells. You want to do the wrong thing. It's like, I've played hundreds of rounds of golf. I know the etiquette. I know what I'm doing. I'm somewhat personable. Like, you know, it's just the ego, you know, trying to protect you, or protect itself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I was vocalizing it to myself. I knew it was there. But I think what I most wanted was to show and prove that I could play, even though he wasn't hiring me to play.
Mm-hmm.
I made a video that I learned from my coach, more of a life coach, really. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but she said, let me see if I can remember this. She said, there is a difference. I did this with a work thing a couple months ago. There's a difference between trying to prove yourself versus giving it your all. Trying to prove yourself inherently means you're not enough and you need validation externally to get it. Giving it your all has no expectations. Giving it your all is more of a giving focus than a taking. And I think I was trying to prove myself those first few rounds. And it's easy to also get down on myself if I just had one of those days where it was almost like nothing I was consciously thinking. It was more so just a physiological feeling, just going inward, quiet. Nothing was working. You know, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of us get so down because we put so much into it. So it feels like everything we put into it was a waste, but it's a hard game, you know? And, you know, I got a lot of comments today with this LPGA post that I shared from Allison Lee, and people are like, grow up, you know, they're playing professional golf. It's not that hard. But at the end of the day, like, I think those people need to realize that this is the only sport, I think, where you could be top 5 in the world and finish last or feel like you lost it. Where if you think about a top 5 NBA player or a top 5 MLB player or a top 5 tennis player, they're making NBA, they're making 20 something points a night, double doubles. MLB players are hitting 30 plus home runs. They might have off nights, but it's pretty rare for a top 5 in the league to fall off the face of the planet like you can in golf. And to feel one day like you could be number 1 in the world, to feel the next day like you want to give it up, that's a hell of a roller coaster. And that's why it's so important. Rory's talked about this. Mm-hmm. You can't identify with your results, but it's so human too.
Right.
Because it's the only thing we have to tell us how we're doing, which is kind of what I told you guys off air about, like, right, how I focused on building the show. It's like, it wasn't about others. It was about helping others, but it wasn't about the likes or the downloads. I looked up one day and suddenly we had hundreds of thousands of downloads. Like, you know, so it was more of, I became obsessed with the doing. And after 187 episodes with the top sports psychologists, mini tour players, average players, great amateurs, the one thing that they all really do is they focus on the doing. You're going to worry about what it means at some point, but you know, I literally just tweeted this. Let me read this to you guys. I thought about it right before I came on that I think is really relevant. I said, playing golf's a lot like getting stranded on a deserted island. At first you panic, worried you're going to die. But at some point you realize you better start focusing your energy on how to survive, you know? And so I think at a certain point, you got to realize that stuff doesn't help you. And you got to focus on what you're trying to do. I feel like I blacked out. I don't ever remember what you asked me. I don't know how I got there, but hopefully it answered your question.
It did 100%. That's what it's all about, man. That was the whole intention. Yeah, I just thought, because it seems like there's just this dichotomy in golf of like, well, like, you know, you can only have fun if you play well. And it's like, well, it's like, and being mentally strong, mentally weak, it's just, I don't know, it's just so applicable to all levels. And that's why I just was like, man, if we can get Evan on here to add some value to, because I know a handful, like I can picture a handful of the listeners that this is something that they struggle with, and just taking like strides in that direction, in the doing, it's the quickest way to not only, honestly, it's like this oxymoron, because it's going to improve your score, like for sure.
Yeah.
In the ultimate, like it's going to make you a better player. But most importantly, it's just a way that you're going to enjoy it more. Like you said, the worst thing, I love what you said, saying like the worst possible outcome of a golf round is like, oh man, I wish I enjoyed that more. And there's been plenty of times, I'm sure Sean can attest, where we're playing a 2-man and we're playing somewhere and we walk off just pissed. And it's like, man, like that's so dumb. Like it's yeah. Anyway, so I love that, man. That's just tremendously valuable.
Well, you know, one video I made that seemed to resonate with a lot of people was, most people think they're going to enjoy the ride the more they ride the par train. But actually, if you enjoy the ride first, the doors on the train open up, you know? So it's 100%. Like, I think that's the secrets to me that I've learned in my life, is it's always a little reverse of what you think. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like I posted today, it's almost like finding love. The minute I wasn't looking for someone, I met my future wife, you know, but the times that you're looking for someone, you don't find them, or you find the wrong person, you know, or maybe the right person for that time, but it's not your person. And golf's kind of like that. Like, think about it, all your guys' low rounds. Tell me a time you shot your low score and you were trying to shoot your low score. Probably not.
Never.
You probably had no expectations.
Yeah.
And you felt into a flow state, and you were just, what's the number? What do I have? What do I feel good about? Hit it. Yep. Go get the next one. Hit it. Go get the next one. And yet that's the beauty of the game, because you do that, you think it's easy. You go into the next round with expectations. You don't even realize you changed your whole approach, and you shoot 10 strokes higher. But that's the practice, is how can you try and maintain the same routine regardless of what happened in the previous shot, the previous round. Yep. You know, that's hard, but that's the practice.
Right.
And that leads me to just something I've been dying to ask you, honestly, is like, what are tangible things you do to practice? Like, I mean, is it something silly like, oh, I'm going to make sure I smile right before I start every swing to try to loosen up? Or is it like a positive thought, or do you write something down on the scorecard that you're constantly referencing? What are some things that you would suggest to people, especially like in my shoes, where I'm very early on in trying to improve my mental game? What are some things I can do on the course to help kind of get more into it, I guess, if that makes sense?
I'll give you two. First is Cal Shapiro. I don't know if you guys know him. He used to be in Time Flies. Now he's a solo recording artist. He said one thing that I've probably gotten more messages about than anything. He said the single thing that changed his game, and he's a 0.9 handicap right now. Breathe. When you get over the ball, take a breath in, let all the air out, then start your swing. It's a tension releaser. That alone has changed people's games. They've messaged me. They've told me. A personal example. So I guess one, breathing. It's the number one way to change your physiology, regardless of what's happening. It's not new. Everyone knows that, but not a lot of people do it. Two, you guys have probably seen this, but in case the listeners haven't, I'm focusing on two things with my driver right now. And the founder of Mental Golf Type helped me with this. It was a huge aha moment for me when I realized, because I was doing all the right stuff with my driver. Like, I had the right thoughts. I was picking where I was focused on where I wanted to hit it. But middle of the swing, I'd kind of have these like weird panic moments where all of the previous trauma really would show up, and I'd snap hook one or I'd block it right. And you can't play golf that way.
It's scary.
And so I basically created like the driver became the demon for me. And I had 2 to 3 years of narrative of saying like, this is the club that is preventing me from becoming the player that I know I can be. Because when everyone sees me hit my 3-wood, they go, why the hell do you hit a driver?
Sit that every time.
Because a lot of times I hit it past their driver. My 3-wood's pretty good. But John really sat me down and he's like, we have to, some of it is unconscious. All of it really was unconscious. And I think those are the times that people don't know what to do. Because it's like, you think you're doing the right stuff and you still keep missing it. And I realized it's been like years since I told myself something positive with the driver. And he asked me, he's like, have you hit a perfect drive before? I go, of course. He goes, what'd that feel like? And I was like, well, John, I didn't watch the ball land. I picked up my tee. I probably grit my teeth. I twirled my club. I got an adrenaline rush, and it was probably the greatest feeling in the world. And he's like, okay, I want you to imagine that and feel that before you step into the ball. And he started texting me. I know this sounds silly, but I'm going to share it anyways. He started texting me. He's like, who are you? And he goes, every time I ask you who you are, I want you to say you're the best goddamn driver of the golf ball that's ever lived. And I know that sounds silly from a guy who was snap hooking it, hitting it OB, like, but the key though was act as if, not be, because I could tell you I'm not, but act as if, because now I'm playing a role and it's a little game. So feel the confidence, encompass the feeling, act as if I'm the goddamn best driver of the golf ball that's ever lived. And then look up in the sky, pick my spot that I see the ball to fly. Picture a 30-yard, Devin, you already mentioned this, 30-yard wide sheet of glass and break that. Can I curse?
You can do whatever you want, Evan.
Break that fucking sheet of glass, okay? And because of my mental golf type, again, big zones, I was getting in trouble with like these field goals like that. It didn't allow me to like really go at it, but like up in the sky, there's almost like a meditative stillness to it. I almost forgot about the hole. I saw it. I connected with it. I saw the sheet of glass and I said, let's break that motherfucking sheet of glass. It was a very offensive, strong thought. I felt it in my bones, and then I'd rip it, and, I've also gotten smarter with like, what are my tendencies in my swing? Why is it that I've had a two-way miss? Like I am working on some technique stuff too, but that's not nearly having the impact that John's stuff is having for me. So how can I relate that to the average person? Well, breath was one. 2 is go to mentalgolftype.com, take the free quiz, figure out what type you are, and then start to learn what areas, we all have dominant and non-dominant. We're not one or the other. It's just like right hand versus left hand. So lean into the stuff you're already dominant in and give yourself a chance. I think self-talk and belief is real. I've hit the driver better in the last 3 rounds using this stuff than I have in 3 years. And I'm not saying it's a pill or it's the perfect thing. It's always there, but it's a very dangerous thing in a good way, because you start to change the narrative, you start to rewire your subconscious, then you start to see some good stuff, then your belief gets behind it, then your confidence starts coming with it, and then you're really on your way. So
yeah, man, just so much good stuff there, and it just resonates so, because like I mentioned before, and we talked about this on one of our episodes on the podcast, and Sean and I actually had a heart-to-heart one night about kind of just things that because I'm, again, just a big believer in that. I kind of got introduced to this whole visioneering, manifesting, all of that, picturing yourself in the present moment. I don't know if you've heard of it. His name's Dennis Deacon. I actually met the guy. Super, just really good mental coach. And he has a book called Mind Management. And he goes deep into like the scientific, like the reticular activating system, and how, if you manifest things and you do what it is to get there and believe it, like the laws of the universe will almost, it's like impossible for it not to happen. Like it's really, really interesting. So I recommend reading that, but that's kind of how I got introduced to it. And I immediately started to apply it into my professional life. Like if I was just telling Sean, I was doing this big presentation. I'm in tech sales with higher education, and was doing a presentation with the University of West Alabama, like 80 something people in there. And before I go in, I start writing down how the meeting is going to go, how I'm going to sound, what it feels like to take control of the meeting. And it just coordinates so well with golf. And we've talked about that before of, the night before, a big tournament, going into detail how it feels to make a sick up and down par save, or get on a birdie run, or whatever that may be. And I've done that. And it's kind of crazy how you mentioned, like, your self-belief comes, you start to follow, and then your body takes over, and it's almost impossible for it not to happen. And I've told Sean, I need to do it more, because I'm batting pretty much 100% on this stuff. It's almost like this fear of like, it eventually may not work. And I'm like scared of that, which is so dumb. But like, that is like such a hidden gem and a hidden secret in all aspects of life, but particularly with golf. And again, Sean and I have kind of talked about that before, and also just kind of having like those words of affirmations. I'm big into it. I like yoga. My wife got me into yoga a couple of years back, and now I do it more than she does, like really big into it. But they're huge on that, right? The breath is like, the mindfulness and how you can connect to your body is amazing through the breath. And those words, like I have just sharing kind of what I'm thinking about. If I'm a little nervous over a shot, this may sound dumb, but I say, I am safe, I am sound, all good things come to me. And then I swing. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy what that's done for me in and outside of golf. So that stuff I'm a believer, man.
Have you guys seen the story with Eric Lang, where he basically for one round assumed that every golf shot had already been hit
predetermined. Yep.
And he shot under par. Only time he's ever shot under par. I had dinner with him at Bandon. We were randomly both there, and we talked about that. And I asked him if he ever done it again. He goes, not even close. So the one thing I'll say, I don't get the chance to talk about manifestation a lot, so I'm going to use this as my opportunity.
Yeah, please.
2 keys that I've experienced for people that want to manifest the life they want. 3 actually. Sorry, 3. 1 is clarity on what you want. Most people live in the experience of what they don't want, and they never actually get clear on what they do want. Once you get really specific and clear on what you want, you're right, Devin, the universe will give you I'm living it, like legit. I'm telling you, I was literally in your seat 5 years ago. So that's 1. 2, but it won't happen unless you do the next 2 things. 2 is you have to take action in the direction of what it is that you want. The universe knows when you're taking something serious or not. And you better love it, because that's the only way that you're going to do it. I do a podcast every week. I've edited 187 episodes myself. Christmas morning, I don't care what it is, I get it out, and it doesn't seem like work to me because I love it and I want to share it, right? 4 posts a day on Instagram, 3 years now. Like, I don't know what I'm going to post every day. I have no idea. Some days I do, but some days it's a creative challenge for me, and I do it, and I've gotten a lot better at it because I do it every day, right? So just like this becoming full time, I didn't just wake up one day and it was like, hey, you're full time now. It was like when I decided that I was going to put in the hours. The money might not have been there yet, but my attention was full time. Mm-hmm. And that's when things started to change. So that's 2. 3, detachment. Detachment from results is the only way that it's going to come in. It's the whole, I'm not looking for the love of my life and she gets dropped right in front of me, right? If you can, it's just like golf. If you can focus on the doing, if you get clear on the shot you're going to hit or the thing you want in life, you take action against it, and you accept that you're going to be okay and good things are going to come to you. And however it happens, you're on your path. Even if the thing that's happening isn't in line, it's the opposite of what you want. It might be giving you an experience that's going to get you closer to what you want. So detachment and faith and trust is the way to kind of stay open to it. Right. So that's at least the formula that's helped me in my life. And I'm super passionate about it because I have family members, I have friends, some of our followers, like I can see it and I can't live their life for them, but it's challenging at times because I know a lot of times we're getting in our own way. We're sitting in what we don't want. Sometimes it's like crazy powerful of just like getting clear on what you do want. That's it. It's crazy, but I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't have said it any better, man. And that's just, again, I just get over that. It's just such powerful lessons inside of golf, obviously, but outside, and whatever that may look like. And just, man, because I mean, going back to that round that I was talking about in my qualifier, I took a 9 on a hole on a par 4 on my 4th hole. And it's because I was fearing the big miss. I was fearing of making that big number. And there's a hole Sean knows it. Anyone in St. George, Utah knows. There's this canyon hole. There's OB right and left. It's very small. It's a long hole. You have to lay up. And I was fearing that the entire month, that one hole. Sure enough, Get up to it, hook it on the line of the out of bounds, and ended up taking a 9. And, but ultimately, it made me kind of let go as I went out throughout the round. But that's just the opposite, right, of faith and fear. And they're not going to.
So your guys' listeners, think about what Devin just said. Devin was trying not to hit OB, and he hit it OB. There you go.
Gosh, with my most faithful club too. What do you know? Shocker.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but that's the game. That's the practice, right?
Right. Exactly. I know we're about at our time, man. There was so much more. I want like the mental.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sean and I
kind of go off on some the runs.
That's the whole point, man. That's why we wanted you. So like we both went on the mental golf type and took the free test, and we were both like, whoa, like we almost feel violated. Like these people know us intimately now, because there were so many things where like, that's exactly how Sean acts. And this is exactly how Sean will digest his practice formula. And then the other was, with me, I'm like, man, that's exactly. So I wanted to get into that. I also, if you're open to it, you mentioned Eric Anders Lang. We're both big fans of his stuff. Love his content, obviously, and just his view on golf. It's kind of been a tradition to take his Dear Golf exercise, if you're familiar with that, where you write the letter to golf. If you'd be willing to kind of do yours, man, I always, when everyone does this, it's crazy just the eye-opening experience it is to kind of see golf from their lens. If you'd be willing, man, to kind of write your letter kind of off the cuff, is that something you
man? I mean, I got to do this on the fly, but I'll do it. I'm up for the challenge. Right now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Dear Golf, thank you for giving me a game to practice my thoughts and learn to let go and trust that the things I want will come, but I got to accept the other side of it as well. And there's no better game than you, because no better game reflects my thoughts every shot. And I know I'm never going to perfect you, but it's a sure as hell fun ride to try and do it. And I still haven't shot 18 holes par. I still haven't even shot even par. I know that's coming. I'll shoot under par one day. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll be a scratch, but none of it matters, because to me, as long as I can help people through your game, to me, that's the greatest gift. So thank you.
Love it, man. Appreciate that. Like I said, just the small insights. And I think it's a good exercise, for us all to take, randomly at times. And it's interesting how, if you would have written that letter 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 months ago, I'm sure you'd say something different.
Yeah.
But ultimately your purpose is kind of united in that. And I think that's where you just, your stuff is exploding and people are loving it. Cause it, like you said, it adds value, and it's something that we're all working on, and it's that endless pursuit. And there's just such a great marriage there with the game of golf. So appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
John, any kind of last thoughts before we?
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Evan, because what you guys are doing is awesome. It sounds cliche to say like, oh, it's changing my life or whatever, but like it's really having an impact, because I mean, I love golf, but it has caused me so much heartache and pain, which has impacted like other aspects of my life, like other relationships, right? But just trying to step back and practice some of these mental techniques and implementing these practices that you're sharing with everyone, like it's making me or helping me enjoy the game more, but it's like also just in my life in general, like helping me just be more positive, more happy, really. Like I'm trying to go back to early days of golf where it's just like I just wanted to get to the course and play because I loved it so much. Just trying to remember that again, right? Because like as I've gotten older and better, it's become so score focused, and I've just like I'm the perfect example of letting score sort of dictate my attitude. And that's been really my big push these last couple months, is just trying to get away from that and trying to go back to remembering like why I enjoy golf so much. And just being exposed to what you guys are doing has made a really big difference. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, man. That means the world. Like I said to Devin, that's why I do it. And, I'll end on this. This is a well-known mindfulness thing, but you're not your thoughts. You're the observer of your thoughts. I don't care if you're in a meeting with a really rude coworker, you're at dinner with a weird family member, or you're on a date, or you're on the golf course. Like, I battle with this stuff every day. I've been practicing it for 17 years, but when you realize that you have a choice on reacting and how you react, or just sitting with something, that starts to change everything. And so that's what I'd say to people out there. And, give yourself some grace too. Like, Sean, you've been playing this game a long time. I can hear the pain in your voice. We've all experienced it. But, it's a different level when you grew up with it. I started playing a little later after baseball. So just give yourself grace. You've been playing golf in a very specific way. You've been living life a very specific way for a very long time. And, it's a practice for a reason. So on days that maybe you didn't enjoy it as much as you did, see if you can enjoy it 1% more the next time. Count your negative thoughts, count your commitments, give yourself some type of thing to make some progress. And you're not going to get it overnight, but that's the practice. To me, the most freeing one, because no matter what's happening around me, I have the choice to how I see it. So thank you guys for having me. I mean, it means a lot that we helped inspire even a little bit this podcast. And keep following your heart and doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Couldn't have ended it any better. But again, for our listeners, check out Evan and the stuff they're doing at the Par Train, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Their stuff is tremendously valuable, and it's going to help you enjoy the ride. And like he says, smile through. If we can smile through bad golf, we can smile through anything. So with that, we'll wrap it up. But again, thank you, Evan, and thank you all for the listens. And keep striving.